Hello, I'm Elmore Alexander, and I'm a principal consultant with Optimal Campus Consulting. And I'm here today with the founder of Optimal, Nuno Couto, who's also one of the principal consultants within the organization. And the purpose of the meeting here today is to talk a little bit about Nuno's background and what he's up to in terms of projects and activities today. So welcome, Nuno.
Thank you.
Can you start by telling us a bit about your education?
Sure. I actually got my start late. I did not go to university right after high school. It's a story that's longer than we have time for. I grew up in an environment where education, let's say, was not as well regarded as in other environments. So I had to overcome a lot of challenges. Around the time I was 17, I really had what would be called an existential challenge in some ways, because I wanted so much to go, but there was so much pressure not to go. But in any case, I ended up getting my degree in business information systems from the University of Massachusetts. That was really a wonderful experience. It was not the easiest experience because I was getting married at the same time and having children at the same time. Came out of there, went to work for a well-regarded company, and we can talk about that in a second. But after a number of years working in consulting, ended up at Northeastern University for their high-tech MBA. Really loved the program, especially the part about business planning and entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So undergrad in a combination of business and computer science, and then the MBA.
So I assume that as you speak there about that MBA program and the high tech and sort of drawing you into higher education as an area of interest had to do something with your interest in shifting out of the management consulting area and into more of a higher education. Is that an accurate descriptor of your pathway?
I always was interested in not just education, but in giving back to the education field. So the purpose of the MBA was not just to grow personally, but also to learn how I could do more, how I could make a bigger difference to the world in terms of business, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of turning an idea into something more tangible. But always with the hope of bringing that full circle to make a difference to the higher ed community, students, faculty, staff, research. So came full circle.
Okay. So you moved out of the management consulting area. You started Optimal Consulting and began to work in the IT area of higher education. Can you tell us a little bit about the kinds of projects you've worked on and actually how Optimal evolved over the last 15 years or so?
Sure. So in 2007, I left a medical device company out of the Boston area. This was after the time in consulting. At the time, it was Anderson Consulting. Now it's Accenture. But upon leaving the medical device company, I thought it was a perfect time to do what I always wanted to do, which was to give back to higher ed in a hopefully big way by starting my own company that focused on higher ed, and I'd also leveraged the IT technology background that I have. And so went to work for a large Boston area university as a consultant, running a number of projects, and simultaneously also building the company. From there, worked for another, even larger Boston area university, and from there another and another and another, to the point where we have managed and run projects impacting student, staff, faculty in the 30,000s and higher. In terms of what kind of projects, I mean, we've done learning management system implementations, we've done upgrades of ERP systems, we've done development from scratch, web development, we've done security projects, strategy assessments within IT. Really quite a broad number of projects and in different areas within the IT discipline.
And now you've moved into the area of strategic planning for universities in a more general sense.
Right, exactly. And that's, again, driven by the desire to make an even bigger difference. There is a lot of difference that could be made within IT, of course, especially these days. Everything is driven by IT. IT is the savior to some extent in this new COVID world. But you can make a potentially bigger difference even at the higher levels, the president level, the provost level, the chancellor level. So that's where we can help universities to think differently, to bring together a team of people that have the academic background, that can talk the language of academia, that also have that business background and focus, that have years and years and years of leadership experience within higher ed, but to combine that with a deep knowledge base and experience and network, national, international, local, of people to assist, whether it's technology or academic background or pure strategy. That has been the passion, to bring it all together to make a difference to higher ed at the highest levels.
Interesting. Now, if I can pivot just a little bit to a personal level, I know that something's very unique about you is that you're one of the few people right now who's splitting time between Canada and the US. And it's not just because you do business in Canada. Could you tell us a little bit about your commuting world between the United States and Canada?
I will say I've taken more COVID tests than the average person. Not because I suspected having COVID, but more as a precaution going across the border. Yeah, so I recently married a Canadian, someone who I met many years ago, and we went in different paths, and then came back together. But I have children in the U.S., older, but still. My kids and my mom is still in the Boston area. And so I need to go back and forth. It is much more difficult to do it now because of COVID. But if I have the right documentation proving that I'm married to a Canadian, they do let you go by the border. And thankfully, I was somewhat well prepared for the back and forth, because I would say since 2012 to 2020, early 2020, I had a very mobile lifestyle. I basically ran my business and my life out of my RV. So it's actually the page on the website that gets the most attention. The Our Story page. If you scroll down to the very bottom, you'll see a picture of me in my RV. Not the best of pictures, but anyway.
Back in the time when we actually had real meetings, I always knew if you were at the site when I showed up, because the RV was quite distinctive in the parking lot.
You can't miss it. It does fit into a regular parking space, but it does also stick out.
That's interesting. Well, thank you very much for sharing those elements of both your personal life and the business and optimal consulting, and enjoyed talking with you here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.